Welcome back to the channel, my friend, where today you might be like many of my clients moving to the area and say, Anthony, I'm curious to understand more about the Bella Vista Lakes. Can you help me understand what each lake offers? Where are they located? What can I do on each lake? Especially, what is the real estate like around each one of the Bella Vista Lakes? Well, my friend, you are in luck, as today I'm going to codify a bunch of analytical information, maybe some information that you won't find in other people's videos or online. I'm going to give you a much richer content to be able to understand the Bella Vista Lakes. If this is your first time to a Bella Vista, Arkansas video, it might be helpful for you to know that Bella Vista in the early 1900s started as a resort community where people would come and they would summer here in northern Arkansas. It wasn't until the mid-1900s when Cooper Communities bought much of Bella Vista, Arkansas, and started developing it into a retirement community, a graduated retirement community. You would come here for the summer and then eventually you would stay here full time. And now, as of 2007, Bella Vista is its own standalone city. So here we are. Now, of course, during the mid-1960s and through the early 80s, this is when the beautiful private lakes that we're going to discuss today were created. That's right, every single one of the 7 lakes that we're going to talk about today, and actually many lakes in the state of Arkansas, are not natural lakes. They are reservoirs. They're dammed up on one end, either spring-fed or water-fed in some sort, but they are not a natural lake. So we're going to get into a little bit of that. Of course, we're going to tell you a bit of the data on each lake, but again, I'm going to help you understand a bit more about what each lake offers and what lake life is like around the lakes in Bella Vista. Before I introduce each and every lake to you and some stats and facts about each one, you should know that most every lake in Bella Vista is wonderful for fishing. If you're in Arkansas and over the age of 16, you're required to have a fishing license. And because these are private lakes, you need to be either a member or a guest of a member in order to enjoy each and every one of these lakes. The entire city of Bella Vista is governed by a property owners association. So again, these are private lakes in order for you to enjoy. In alphabetical order, first on our list is Lake Ann, located on the east side of Business 71. It has 112.5 acres of surface area. Lake Ann is fed by Pinion Creek, was built in 1970, is a wake lake, so a full recreation lake for you to be able to have a motorboat on the lake. And the dam itself is 63.5 feet deep. Next is Lake Avalon on the west side of Business 71 and is my favorite lake out of all 7 of them. Has 67 acres of surface area, is fed by Sturgeon Creek. The dam itself is 58 feet deep, and Lake Avalon is Bella Vista's oldest lake, finished in 1968. It is a no-wake lake and is the only lake out of all 7 in Bella Vista that has a sandy beach recreation area. Next on our list, let's jump back across Business 71 and go to Lake Brittany, which was built in 1980. Has 37 acres of surface area. The dam is 95 feet deep. It is not a wake lake, and Lake Brittany is the only of the 7 lakes that is not spring-fed. It's fed by water runoff. A fun fact you should know about Lake Brittany, as of 2007, it was stocked with trout, colder waters, deep dam for those trout to be able to live, and you could fish Lake Brittany year-round and be successful catching trout. Staying on the east side of Business 71 is Lake Norwood at 34.5 acres. It is the smallest of all Bella Vista lakes. The dam itself is 85 foot deep and is fed by a tributary of Little Sugar Creek. Lake Norwood was built in 1973, is not a wake lake, but is one of the easiest lakes to be able to access. It's over by Town Center, and if you haven't been to Bella Vista, you should also check out Mildred B. Cooper Chapel, which is on the shores of Lake Norwood. Next on our list, still on the east side of Business 71, is Lake Rayburn. Lake Rayburn was also built in 1973, has 45 acres of surface area. That dam is also 95 feet deep and is fed by Little Sugar Creek. Now jumping over to our second largest lake is Lake Windsor on the west side of Business 71 with 220 acres to enjoy. The dam itself is 94 feet deep. It's fed by Tanyard Creek, and just north of the dam is the continuation of Tanyard Creek, so there's a waterfall there. Great place. My family and I love to hike Tanyard Creek. It is a wake lake, so full recreation lake as well, to be able to wakeboard and water ski on the lake. And last but not least is the newest lake, and some sources say it was finished in 83, some sources say it was finished in 82, some sources say it was finished in 81, is Loch Lomond, or maybe you pronounce it as Loch Lomond. It has 477 acres, the dam is 96 feet deep, and it is fed by Gordon Hollow Creek. Being Bella Vista's largest lake, Loch Lomond also is the only lake with a full-service marina, and there's Lake Point Restaurant that has some pretty good food if you want to check out a restaurant after a full day on the water. A special thanks to Dave Phillips, who is retired from the National Park Service and the Corps of Engineers, for this information. Of course, my friend, each lake has bluegill and bass, and some of them are better fishing than another, but maybe you are here to learn about the fishing. Maybe you're curious about some of the other rules and regulations on the lake. Of course, for a full list of the lake regulations, you should go onto Bella Vista POA's website and find their fishing, boating, and water sport regulation for 2024. As mentioned earlier, these are private lakes, so if you want to enjoy these lakes, you need to be a member or guest of a member. If you're going to bring a vessel on the water, like a kayak, a canoe, a paddleboard, a boat, those all need to be registered with Bella Vista. And of course, on the website, there are the appropriate ways in order to register your watercraft. Along with all watercraft that needs to be registered with the POA, you need to understand that there are no jet skis allowed on the lake.
No, get down.
No e-foils. I know you're disappointed. And last but not least, there are no seaplanes. Those are prohibited on the Bella Vista Lakes. Growing up on a lake myself, you need to know the rules of the lake, especially Windsor, Loch Lomond, and Lake Anne, that are all recreation lakes where people are in their boats. Believe it or not, where I grew up, we had an unwritten rule that you needed to go counterclockwise on the lake just for lake safety. The same thing in the Bella Vista Lakes is they would encourage you to drive in a counterclockwise pattern. If you're pulling a skier behind you or a tuber behind you, you need to turn left if you drop your skier to go back around safety-wise to be able to go and pick them up. Maybe you visited recently and noticed that some of the water level is lower, for instance, on Lake Windsor. Lake Windsor was one of the most recent lakes that drew down the lake in order to allow the people who live along the water's edge to be able to rebuild their seawalls, to be able to dredge their swimming area, or maybe they needed to rebuild their dock. Lake Avalon also drew down recently, and coming up soon, Lake Norwood, coming this winter 2024, Lake Norwood, they're planning on drawing that lake down next in order to help those folks with dredging and making sure that they're taking care of the lake in that regard also. Maybe now we're getting a little bit more into that real estate information, the knowledge that you're wanting to know if you're looking for a lake property. Of course, I didn't look into homes that have a lake view, but if you're looking for a townhome or a condo on one of the lakes, Lake Windsor or Lake Rayburn have condos and townhomes that are on the shores of both of those lakes. The other lakes do not. The other lakes only have single-family residences on the shores of those lakes. Many buyers come to me and ask, Anthony, where can I find a property on one of the Bella Vista lakes that maybe is low sloping to the lake? My friend, because these are all reservoirs, you need to understand that it's steep down to the lake in most cases. Maybe on one side of Lake Windsor or possibly in a couple of other lakes, but most properties butting up to the lake are going to be very steep. In fact, you might need an electric tram to be able to get down. Maybe you've seen those on other lakes across the country before, but an electric tram can get you down to the water, or a super steep driveway or stairway to get down to your dock or the lakefront to be able to go fishing and enjoy the water. As a local real estate broker, I want to deliver to you information that may be helpful if you're looking for a lake property in Northwest Arkansas, and specifically Bella Vista. Right about 70 homes per year sell on the shores of the lakes in Bella Vista, and I looked for the past 10 years, and that gave me that analytics to be able to deliver to you. And I also went a bit further to help you understand when are homes on lakes purchased. Why not, Anthony, tell me when lake properties are listed? Well, my friends, sometimes people list them in December. Sometimes they list them in January or July. But sharing with you when homes are closed on the lakes, let us know when most people are actually buying these properties, when they're putting them under contract. Looking at the past 10 years, probably wouldn't surprise you to know that the least amount of lake homes are sold in December, January, and February each year. On the other hand, the most amount of homes are closed on. Somebody wrote an offer and then closed on the property. Looking at this chart, you'll see that in May, we average 7 homes a year. June, 8.3 homes a year. July, 7.4 homes per year. And in August, 8.3 lake homes per year close in Bella Vista. So if we were to take the average days on market, which of the last 10 years is 107 days, if you also take the amount of days that a home is probably under contract, do your inspections, appraisal, and what have you, 35 to 40 days, that tells me, just like we see in most of Northwest Arkansas, those lake properties were listed in March, April, and May to be able to close in June, July, and August. That's not to say, my friend, that you couldn't buy a lake home other times of the year. In fact, there's been only 2 months in the last 10 years, both in 2023, that a lake property did not sell out of the entire last 10 years. Now that we've talked about what months people buy lake homes in Bella Vista, let's look at where you're going to find the highest possibility of buying a lake property. What lake has the most opportunity each year? According to the last 10 years research, your least likely lake to find a home to purchase would be on Lake Norwood at 2.1 homes per year. Then we jump up to Lake Brittany at 4.1, Lake Ann at 5.2 homes per year, Lake Rayburn at 7 homes per year. Again, Lake Rayburn may have condos or townhomes along the edge, not a single family home. Lake Avalon, again, my favorite lake, averages 9.5 home sales per year. Increasingly, Lake Windsor has 13.2 home sales per year. And of course, the biggest lake with the most property surrounding is Loch Lomond, with an average of 28 homes per year selling on its shorelines. Now, you may be saying, Anthony, I want to find a lot to purchase on one of these lakes. Well, my friend, they don't come up very often. And again, of course, they are very steep down to the lake. They're not making any more lakefront property here in Bella Vista. That said, finding a lot on one of these lakes is even more rare. As the shooting of this video in July of 2024, it may be helpful for you to know Northwest Arkansas as a whole list to sale ratios. When you list the property to what it sells for, all of Northwest Arkansas is averaging 99%. Looking at the lake properties that have sold this year, the average home is selling at 94.3% list to sell ratio. Now you might be saying, Anthony, why is it so much different on a lake? Well, my friend, because lake property is very unique. You might have one property that's a condo. You might have one property that's a 5,000 square foot home that's been fully renovated on Loch Lomond, that has a boat slip, that has lakefront, and a beautiful yard that's low sloping to the lake. There's quite a range of what might happen, and that condo townhome might be a couple $100,000, where that 5,000 square foot home on Loch Lomond might be close to $1.5 million. Let's dig into those numbers. Again, as of recent, the lowest purchase price this year was $280,000, and the highest purchase price so far this year on the lakes in Bella Vista was close to $1.4 million. The homes on the lakes in Bella Vista are averaging a 3-bed, 3-bath, a little over 3,300 square feet, and were sold right about $860,000. Now, for those of you that absolutely love my favorite metric to hate, price per square foot has ranged on the low end from $143 per square feet up to $368 per square foot. Again, because lakefront property can vary so much from lake to lake and from property to property. One last little factoid for you. There are 993 acres of lakes in Bella Vista, and of the 29,000, that's right, Bella Vista, POA, there is not 36,000 acres in Bella Vista. I did the math. Unless you bought more land and increased Bella Vista's size, 3.4% of Bella Vista is lakes, my friend. It's always a pleasure to put this information together for you, and now you know a little bit more about what life is like in and around Bentonville and Bella Vista. Thanks for watching. If you go on to Bella Vista's website, they say that there's 36,000 acres in Bella Vista. Well, according to the 2020 census, there's only 45.13 square miles in Bella Vista. And if you divide that by 640, which is the amount of acres that are in a square mile, that would mean there are only 29,000 acres of living area. Bella Vista, I need to understand, where are the other 7,000 acres coming from, my friends?